So, you're the French government in 1935. The political situation is very tense, with many different and opposing political parties. The French franc is being devalued, which hits hard the French economy. Then, all of a sudden, you receive this notification. The Germans, sensing weakness, had remilitarized the Rhineland, which was supposed to be a demilitarized zone according to the Treaty of Versailles. This was among one of the first violations of the Treaty of Versailles, with many more to come on the German side. The war support within the French cabinet was on an all-time low, but they had to punish Germany somehow. France would approach Britain and ask for an alliance where they can defeat Germany and force their demands onto the Germans. The British would agree to this, allowing France to invade Germany if the Germans don't back down. The French public would be very much against war due to the worsening economic situation in the country. Other political parties, like the Communist Party of France, would gather even more support, calling against France starting a war. Germany would not take France seriously and ignore their demands to pull out of the Rhineland. The two nations of Germany and France would now enter a state of war. The communists in France, seeing an opportunity to enforce their demands, as well as their growing popularity, start a coup in the northwest of the country. The French would have some success against Germany, at least initially. They would push across the Rhine River near the city of Mulhouse. They would also push near the Saarland, but fail to take control of the territory. Rather than that, they will go around it and try to encircle the 50,000 German troops stationed there. Going northwest to the communist uprising, the French government would have a very hard time. Most French soldiers didn't want to be sent to this front, as they didn't want to kill fellow Frenchmen over ideological grounds. The soldiers preferred to go against Germany and punish them for not obeying the Treaty of Versailles. As a result of that, the uprising came dangerously close to Paris. Perhaps, if the French capital city had fallen, this would be the end for the French government. Things would look dire in France. They were running out of equipment and had already lost around 70,000 soldiers in the process. Germany, on the other end, would suffer 10 times less casualties. Luckily for the French, the British wouldn't get involved directly, but they would help blockade the communist rebels. The next few days, France would stop their offensive in Germany, so they can be able to consolidate and wait for supplies. What ended up happening was a German counterattack, which allowed the Germans to take all of their land and near the French core states. Military factories would start getting sabotaged in France, greatly reducing the equipment they could produce for the war. The United Kingdom would refuse to send equipment to France, stating that France had no right to intervene in Germany, essentially betraying France. The French would prioritize to retake the rebelling areas and then deal with the Germans. An attack would be tried at Amiens. The battle was very bloody, with 20,000 soldiers dying in total over the city. In the end, the French government managed to take the city, as well as some more land in the east. 3 months into the war, things would turn dire for France. Due to them refusing to send factory workers to the front lines, they would start running out of manpower. Because of the political situation, it would be very difficult to recruit more soldiers without risking the possibility of a total collapse. The Spanish Civil War would erupt during the war between Germany and France. For the beginning of the Spanish conflict, no major powers would intervene except Italy and the Soviet Union. France would pull out even more troops from the German front line, sending them to the communist uprising. A great encirclement would be made in the east, where French motorized divisions would blitz through the front line, reaching the Belgian border. These French motorized troops were the best equipped and better trained divisions in all France. A dash would be made towards the city of Calais, the temporary capital of the communist rebels. It was all or nothing for France. If they had lost their best divisions, most likely they would stalemate the war and slowly lose. Luckily for them, they managed to take the city, with the communist rebels surrendering after that. Though some pockets of resistance did remain. All the elite troops can now be sent to the German front line. The situation for the French army was looking even more dire than ever. With the stability of the nation at an all-time low, people would call for the end of hostile actions towards Germany. This is important, since the front lines hadn't moved in months, but the French lost 90,000 soldiers. As well, they were in a deficit of 70,000 guns. On the other side, the Germans were looking healthy and had no major issues. Having said all of this, the French military had a plan: encircle the Saarland and take away the German equipment stationed there. The most elite French motorized divisions would be sent there and try to save the French army. The attack on the Saarland failed, so the French army started to push the west bank of the Rhine River. In Africa, Senegal would be the first to rebel, due to there being no French garrison stationed in the area. Everything that France had was sent to Germany. Lebanon also declared independence from France. The French Empire was starting to collapse. French Morocco decided to also leave the crumbling empire. France was fearing that they would lose Algeria, so they sent 100,000 soldiers to the area. They would try to capitulate Morocco and Senegal, bringing them back into the fold. Syria declared independence, but allied with France, going to war against Lebanon. Tunisia also revolted, greatly putting the risk of losing Algeria. France sent even more soldiers to the area. It was a moment too late, as Algeria also rebelled. All of the French troops stationed there were lost and most of them did not return. There was no hope for France. Anytime they made a push, they were pushed back and lost even more soldiers and equipment, which France very much lacked. The United Kingdom sealed the fate for France, going after their colonial possessions. France revolted and Germany easily took Paris, capitulating the French. The Germans would work together with the British for the upcoming peace treaty. It was determined that France would lose all of their colonies except Algeria. On the mainland, the French would lose Alsace-Lorraine to Germany. Many African countries would just gain their independence, going into the sphere of influence of the British. The United Kingdom would directly annex some African nations like Chad in order to connect their colonies of Nigeria and Egypt. Togo and Benin would submit to the British, connecting Nigeria to Ghana. France would be absolutely humiliated, losing their prestige as a great power. The Germans would impose hard restrictions on the nation for the time being. They would limit their soldier count to 100,000, as well as demand war reparations. The war only lasted a year and a half. This is due to the French not having the equipment or the manpower to push the Germans, despite having the numerical superiority. The fall of the French Empire was another reason why they had lost. They sent their best divisions to pacify Africa, instead they were defeated. Germany and the United Kingdom would work together in their future endeavors. The Germans would be allowed to annex Austria and the Sudetenland with British support. When the Germans took the rest of Czechoslovakia, the British would feel betrayed and start considering their alliance with Germany. Things would get very heated as the Germans attacked Poland for control over the Polish corridor. Which side would the British take? Would France survive themselves and would the USSR come in to defend Poland? These questions I'll leave to you guys down in the comment section below. I believe it's impossible to tell for certain, with the balance of power of Europe being very altered. What I can say for certain is that if the Allies didn't do appeasement and directly fought Germany when they violated the Treaty of Versailles, they would be victorious. You can watch this scenario if this sounds interesting to you.